Hello, and welcome to the Next Canada 2020 recruitment event. This event was brought to you by the Life After Your Degree program with McGill's University Advancement that provides events and programming for upper year students to connect, network, and learn from our McGill alumni. Now, before I begin, I'd like to direct your attention to the question box feature on the toolbar on your screen. Please use this box to submit your questions during the Q&A period at the end of the presentation and panel session. Now, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this evening, Justin Hunt. Justin is the co-founder and CEO of Blaze, a smart mobility company changing how we run public transit with on-demand bus platform. He started Blaze in his final year of mechanical engineering at McGill in 2018 after getting into the Next 36. After finishing Next 36 in 2018, he became an ambassador for the program, promoting the programs across Quebec. Thank you, Justin, so much for being here, and I will now pass it over to you.
Thank you, Antonia. It's a pleasure to be back at McGill virtually this evening. Thank you to everyone who took the time to come and hear about the next programs and hear a little bit about how it changed not only my trajectory as a young professional, but also that of our other panelists tonight. So, as mentioned, I graduated from McGill in 2018 and got into one of the next programs in which I started my company. And for me, I kind of followed an interesting, path up until getting into Next, where I'd done a lot of internships at some very large companies, some smaller companies, and for me, these experiences were really all about figuring out what I didn't want to do. And then when I heard about Next 36 and was introduced to the idea of entrepreneurship and starting a business, it seemed quite foreign to me. I didn't think that it was something that was possible right out of school or even starting in my last semester until I came across these programs. And so when I went through them, it definitely changed my perspective on what I wanted to dedicate my life to, on how and on how ambitious I thought I could be with the ideas that I had. So that's why I'm happy to present to you the next programs this evening. So we always start with a mission, and at Next, the mission is to really build a nation of ambitious, lifelong entrepreneurs who create a more prosperous and competitive Canada. The founder, or one of the co-founders of Next, Reza Satchu, is actually a McGill alumni, and he, after graduating from McGill, went on to live and work in New York and went to Harvard Business School to finish his MBA. And when he came back to Canada, he noticed a significant gap in prosperity between our equivalent counterparts in the US. And what he realized was that in having studied and worked in Canada and studied and worked in the US is that our American counterparts are not smarter, they're not harder workers, they don't have better ideas, but they think bigger. They're more ambitious, and you find more people that have these crazy ideas to change the world, and then actually go ahead and do it. And so he thought about closing this prosperity gap by enabling the most promising young entrepreneurs from across Canada, so that we can build them up, build this generation up, and we can create the next Googles and the next Facebooks right here in Canada to, again, bridge that prosperity gap. So 10 years later, after founding, we're now Canada's largest and strongest and most dedicated entrepreneurial network. Like I said, how we actually have achieved this or are achieving this mission is by supercharging the most ambitious next generation of Canada's entrepreneurs, and to create a more competitive Canada. So how we actually do this more tangibly is through 3 different programs. The first, which I'll talk a lot more about today, is Next 36, which is for either students or recent grads with an idea or are interested in entrepreneurship but don't yet have a business. The next is Next Founders, which is for startups that have some traction but are really looking to scale their business. So maybe they have a first few clients, they've raised a financing round, and they're looking to get to that next stage. Whereas Next AI, the last one, which has 2 campuses actually in Toronto and in Montreal, and this is for AI-enabled ventures looking to disrupt different industries. So they're pretty agnostic to which industry, but it has to be a solution that's founded or based in artificial intelligence. So since being founded in 2010, Next has launched over 230 ventures. Their alumni have raised over $850 million, getting close to that $1 billion mark, created over 3,000 jobs, and are now a network of over 600 entrepreneurs. 600 entrepreneurs that all of the new participants of the programs get access to. And so that's why you'll hear us talking a lot about the network that Next has created, and it's not only these entrepreneurs but also the professors, the advisors, and everyone else involved in their community. Among some of these 600 include the founders of North, who were recently acquired by Google, Nimi, Flash Food. Basically, many of the top startups that you hear of across Canada and across North America, really, have either been co-founded by Next alumni or started within one of the Next programs. So why we're different than many other accelerators and incubators is for a variety of reasons. But one is because we have brought together basically the best people in each of their respective domains to help enable these founders and these businesses to get to where they want to be. And so it's not just about the venture in your company, but it's really about you as a founder. And so they bring in 36 of the world-class faculty every year. These are members that will teach you about venture financing, technical topics, economics of entrepreneurship, and they bring in people from Harvard, from MIT, from the University of Toronto, and others. They have mentors, entrepreneurs in residence, scientists in residence, venture capitalists, CEOs, and a list of advisors that are all there to support the people that are accepted into the Next programs. And like I just said, yeah, so it's focused more on the individual and their raw entrepreneurial talent, way more than other accelerators. And so the goal is that we give these founders the tools that they need to create the businesses. So it starts with that founder, and then they will be the ones to lead the next generation in entrepreneurship in Canada. And we have this pay it forward mentality, which you'll see tonight, based on the fact that we have four of our alumni here on this panel, giving their time to recruit the next cohorts, to share their time, to share their advice that they have with other entrepreneurs. And so when you become part of the Next Canada Network and you join one of our programs, a lot of the advice that you will get or the support that you'll get will be from past people that have done these programs. And then they also have a huge focus on what we call, moonshot projects, in whether it be in artificial intelligence, in agricultural technology, or healthcare. So really encouraging them to think huge, think beyond what we usually deem as possible. So now I'm just going to talk quickly about the Next 36, which is one of the three programs that's more focused on either students or recent graduates. So again, like all of them, it's focused on founder development. This is executed through or delivered through a variety of classes and workshops throughout the 8-month program. So there'll be kind of like a crash course MBA throughout the second half of the program, where they'll bring in faculty from all these top business schools to teach you everything you need to know about starting a business. They offer up to $50,000 in venture financing to finance your projects. Typically, they offer co-working space, but obviously due to COVID, this probably won't be possible in 2021. You get access to this network of alumni. The mentorship as well is absolutely phenomenal. So you get paired with a mentor, which is one of North America's top business leaders. For example, for myself, we're partnered with the managing director of SAP Canada, Cindy Fagan, who is still one of our closest advisors and very involved in our business 2 years after we finished the program. They also offer a variety of in-kind products and services, like legal advice, financial advice, AWS credits for building your technology, credits in Google Cloud, everything you basically can think of on the services and resources side. Who we look for this program is anyone who can identify large problems, whether it be at their school, in their community, or other, and will actually take action to solve them. So these can be leaders you can be a leader in your community, within a student association, or within any sort of social setting. So it's not only people that have previously started businesses, obviously that'll help in showing that you have what it takes to go through this program, but it's not a kind of one size fits all, where they look at the qualities and the resilience shown through your experience to determine if they think you have the potential to be part of that next cohort. So many people that have gone through the program have been leaders of their nonprofit organizations, student groups, have launched campus clubs, things like this, or maybe they are talented on the sports or the art side and have started a new sports team, things like that. So it's definitely quite a diverse pool of people that they look at. Getting into the more specifics, for the eligibility for Next 36, you need to either be in an undergraduate or master's program or a recent graduate. And a recent graduate is usually within 2 years of graduation, but I would say if you feel like the program is really a good fit for you, then apply anyways and see what happens. They're agnostic to any school, any program, so it doesn't matter if you studied arts, business, engineering, music, they'll accept any program. But the only strict requirement is that you're able to commit 100% for summer 2021. So the program is, and I'll go into the timeline in a second, but it's from January to August. And the summer portion, you need to be able to be fully invested into the program. So you cannot be working a part-time job, you cannot be still in school, you need to be fully engaged. And so you don't need to have a business. I got in without an idea, without a business really, but you could have one as well. So it's, again, quite flexible on that front. So the applications are already open and the deadline is next week, October 14th. So if you want to note that in your calendar, it's a relatively short application for kind of major questions and a short video interview. So I would say that after this presentation, if you're on the fence about whether Next is right for you, I would say go ahead and apply, go through the process, and go to the interviews if you make it that far, and make your decision later, because it doesn't hurt to submit an application. And even this application will get you to reflect on if entrepreneurship is the right path for you or not. So definitely worth it. And then once the participants of the program are accepted at the end of November, beginning December, you have a couple months to start forming your ventures. So start looking for a team, start establishing what your idea, what business you're going to pursue. And then the bulk of the program takes place from January to August. The first 4 months, from January to the end of April, are a little bit less, how can I put it? It's a less of a time commitment, where there'll be some workshops, some deliverables, a couple pitches, but it's very realistic for you to do this in your last semester of school or while you're still working part-time, for example. But then the summer portion, which is where it picks up and it's more of your kind of traditional accelerator, and there'll be a lot more expectations, it's not possible to kind of commit yourself to other things at that time. So these are some of the business faculty that will be coaching you as part of the Next 36 program, which you'll get direct access to. You get to ask them questions, you get to sit in their classes, you get to follow up with them, you get access to their emails if you want to organize follow-up meetings with them, including, like I said, Christian Catalini from MIT and Ramananda from Harvard Business School, who teaches you about venture financing in the same way that he teaches Harvard MBA students. In terms of the alumni, I mean, you can go to our website to see the exhaustive list, but these are some of the founders that we're especially proud of. Braden, for example, from VoiceFlow in my cohort raised over $3.5 million in the year after finishing Next 36. Bridget as well, Mallory they've raised several $1 million for their technology in revolutionizing the construction industry. And so the list goes really on and on of the successful people that have gone through the programs that you get to then count as part of your own network if you go through the program. So all of this, so the program is free. Usually you know, in pre-COVID times, you would have to move to Toronto and pay for the living expenses of living in Toronto throughout the summer. But it's for the entrepreneurs, there's no kind of fee that you have to pay to participate, despite getting all these resources and this support. And it's all thanks to the different partners, which include BDC, Ernst & Young, Magna, RBC, Scotiabank, and Osler. Osler is a law firm that provides a lot of the legal advice when you're starting the business, just as a side note. So that's pretty much it for my little presentation. The Next 36 application deadline is October 14th. So that's coming up quite soon in, what are we, the 6th today? So that's in just 8 days away. Doesn't take very long, so I would say get ahead of that. And if you want to learn more and you still have questions after this presentation, I put my email up here, jhunt@blazetransit.com. I'm an ambassador for the program, and so is Eve, another one of our panelists. Her email is there as well. We'd be happy to sit down and have a virtual coffee chat with you about you know, if the programs and if it's right for you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'd like to invite the other panelists to join me here. Hi, Eve, Rashid, hey, Jacob, Olivier. Would you each like to start with just kind of a quick background as to what your maybe educational background was when you got into Next and which program you did? Eve, would you like to start?
Sure, thanks, Justin. And hi, everyone. My name is Eve, and I am the co-founder of Wellness World, which is a digital wellness and engagement platform for students. We're actually hopefully going to be at McGill soon, so stay tuned for the referendum in November. That being said, I'm actually still a university student. I'm at the University of Ottawa studying international development. I'm in my final year, and I actually just graduated from the Next 36 program this year of 2020. So it was the first year where it was virtual, very different from what the other years were, but it was a phenomenal program and very transformative actually for my trajectory. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kashif. Oh, I think you might be on mute.
Oh, your mic.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
So hi everyone. My name is Kashif. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Plaque, where we use artificial intelligence to help predict the likelihood of heart attacks and strokes when they might happen. My background is in, I was a McGill alumni, so I'm currently in my PhD in experimental surgery, year 5, hopefully final year. But I'm an alumnus of the Next AI program, so that was also this year. I was virtual. And it was really nice to come from a very scientific background and learn about the business, learn about AI, and kind of, I guess, integrate that knowledge back into the company. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Jacob or Olivier, Jacob?
Yeah, I'll go. So I'm Jacob. I graduated McGill Engineering in 2016 and then joined the Next 36 program, where we started Eno. We're making a productivity tool that's powered by brain sensing headphones, the ones I'm wearing now, and they measure and track your focus while you work, kind of like a Fitbit for your brain.
Awesome, thanks, Jacob. Olivier?
Hi, and I'm Olivier. I graduated from McGill Engineering or Computer Engineering. I did Next Founders in 2018. My venture, I'm the co-founder of ChargeHub. So we're trying to grow EV adoption, so electric vehicle adoption, by simplifying the charging experience.
Awesome, thanks, Olivier. So the first question I have for all of you is what led you to want to go into one of the next programs? And I think the answers may differ because we have some alumni from Next AI, from Next Founders, and from Next 36. So why'd you pick Next? You know, there's so many different accelerators, incubators across Canada. Why did you go with Next, and why do you think it was right for you? Kashif, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can get started. So for me, it kind of, I'll just expand on what I mentioned previously. So Next AI really highlights the business and AI, artificial intelligence aspects of business. And being in a very diverse team that Plaque is, we have clinicians, scientists, AI engineers. I felt as though as CEO, I need to have an understanding of all these different fields. So that was what mainly led me to apply for Next AI, and thankfully it worked out. I feel like we learned a lot. We changed a lot of our methods throughout the summer, and I feel like we're exactly where we should be when it comes to diagnosing heart attacks or strokes.
Awesome. Jacob, you actually are the one who helped get or told me about the Next 36 programs. So how did you actually find out about Next, and what led you to want to apply and do the program?
Yeah, so I initially heard through friend of a friend, essentially. But my story was that I was studying engineering. I was in my last year. I knew that being an entrepreneur sounded really cool. Like it's what I wanted to do. But what I usually hear from people is like, look, if you want to be an entrepreneur and like, okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Like, what's the next step? Like, you got to have an idea. You got to have a team. You got to know what you're doing, right? And so Next seemed like a perfect program to take my lack of entrepreneurial savvy and lack of knowing what to do to start a business, but having the ambition and turn that into, okay, here's the structure, here's how you're supposed to follow it, and here's how you can actually start building that company.
Awesome, thanks for that. Olivier, from your, I guess when you had done Next Founders, you'd already had an established business by that point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were established. We had a team in Montreal. You know, we were up and running, but we really wanted to kind of kick it up a notch, like take our business to the next level if we want. And at the same time, me personally wanted to expand kind of my network and my mentor network. So having Next in Toronto was actually really interesting. So for us, yeah, for me, it was like a good timing to expand my network and also kind of, yeah, take the business into the next level kind of thing.
Awesome, thanks. Is there anything you want to add, Eve?
I think I really resonate with what Jacob and Olivier was saying in terms of, you know, taking your venture to the next level. I was really involved in initiatives, mental health advocacy. I'd worked at a couple mental health startups, and I wanted to start something of my own. And so Next really offered that education. It was such a phenomenal way of learning, and really it was a huge learning curve. At the same time, Next is very different from other accelerators because it does have that kind of founder training, and I really describe it as like entrepreneurial boot camp, and so that's what really appealed to me.
Absolutely. And so next I kind of wanted to ask where each of you were before, and how did Next change that trajectory for you? So what did you get out of the program most, and how did that change the path that you were on? I'll just keep switching. Jacob, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so I when graduating, I saw myself having 3 options. It was like, get the engineering job, go to grad school, or this magical route of entrepreneurship that nobody knows how to do but seems amazing. And so I was like, if not for Next, I was likely leaning towards one of the other two, basically because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And this idea of starting a company that is eventually worth, you know, tens of billions of dollars seems grandiose and unachievable. And so Next completely derailed that. Like, it pointed me in the direction of entrepreneurship and gave me the fundamentals, to the point where when we left Next, we were ready with a business plan, with a prototype, with all of what we needed to get into the Hacks Accelerator, to eventually partner up with Onkyo, launch our product, raise a seed round, and everything that followed. So I've been building, you know, since Next. We started it in Next 36. And so my entire career at this point is completely shifted because of the program.
Awesome. Olivier, how did the Next Founders Program change the trajectory of Charge Hub and you as a founder?
So yeah, for me, because we're already established, it might not have changed as drastically or affected us as drastically, but it really helped me kind of it accomplish the tasks or the goals I had with expanding my networks to Toronto and finding some mentors and some contacts there. So I think it established that. I think a little I think the mission of Next is to help you think big. Like I think we had ideas for Charge Hub that were not bad, but maybe too small. And I think Next helped us explore bigger ideas and think outside kind of that. Yeah, not outside the box. That's a little cliche, but like think big, and think a bit more long term. So I think in that sense, it really helped.
Yeah, so just kind of going beyond what you guys thought was kind of possible at that time.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Eve, how about you? Being a student, I imagine that must have changed quite a bit from where you are now to where you were before.
Yeah, for sure. I think on the note of what Olivier was saying about, getting like way larger, achieving more than expected and thinking bigger. I went into Next 36. I told a friend, I just hope I have something tangible. Like I want to have a product or something out there at the end. And so my co-founder and I, we actually in 6 months were able to do way more than just that. We developed an MVP and we got a paid pilot signed and launched our first version of our web application, which is the Wellness and Engagement SaaS. And also have an LOI. So it's like way more than we could have anticipated. And I think also as a student, this summer would have been my 4th co-op, but I actually dropped the co-op program and I was in Next this summer and I was actually able to hire 2 co-op students as opposed to being in my final co-op. So I think that's pretty different than I would have expected.
Yeah, certainly. And Kashif, how about you?
Yeah, so we were actually pretty early stage when we started the program. We were founded in December 2019, and so we started the program in about March 2020. So everything was still up in the air. We just had this idea. We had like some form of an MVP, but not really. So I think the main thing that NextAI helped us with the most is strategy, business strategy. At first we were thinking like, we'll be B2C. Now we're definitely B2B. In terms of creating that network and talking to the right people. They helped us get other opportunities for funding, and so we just received some more non-dilutive funding sources. And so yeah, I think it was a complete big turnaround in terms of where we thought we should go to where we really should go and what's the best path for us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's cool about the Next AI programs as well. Like the investment that comes along with the Next AI programs is higher. Is it 120 or 160 for the Next AI programs?
What do you mean the investments?
From the Next Canada program?
It's 25K for the
Next AI. Oh, okay. Well, but yeah, and for some reason I thought it used to be more, but either way, that they accept people who are still at the early stage ideas and invest into these to allow you to kind of experiment and pursue these different opportunities. So
yeah, we had people from all over the place. Like some were still in ideation, some were in validation, and some had a full business ready and just wanted to scale. So it was really for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And out of all the, I talked a lot about the founder development, the investment in capital, the mentorship, the network, things like that. What for you stood out as the most valuable thing that you gained from your experience with Next? I don't know who's turn around. We'll go back to Eve.
Ooh, that's a big question. It's also fresh in my head, right? I would say there's so many entrepreneurial lessons. I mean, we took entrepreneurial finance classes. We learned the LTV CAC ratios, like all these really important concepts. But more than anything, I think on a personal note, the kind of learning settings we were in, really forced me to be articulate and to communicate effectively in high pressure situations. So that is a skill that I know will serve really well in my entrepreneurial career, but I already see like how it's impacting me really positively in other parts of my life. So I would say that maybe that's an unpredictable like lesson, but that's what I took away.
Definitely. Kashif?
Yeah, so I think maybe two big things. For me personally, it was just understanding this realm of entrepreneurship a little more. Like before the program, you know, it feels scary, kind of like what Jacob said. Like there's a lot going on, and it seems like it's such an exciting field, but there's too much knowledge. There's too many things to know, and so the program really helps structure the different aspects of entrepreneurship into things that are much more tangible and easier to understand. And then from the business perspective, I think I already mentioned this, but it's definitely for myself, coming from a scientific background, the business classes and understanding the different aspects, finances, how to raise a round, what does that even mean to raise a round, like that I felt was very helpful.
Awesome. And what about you, Jacob?
I was gonna talk about the business fundamentals, but honestly, the biggest thing is it just gives you an arrogance that's like hard to overstate. I've been checking in with some of my university friends because I haven't talked to a few of them in 4 years since we started the company, and just the way that Next alumni talk about the future is just so much more confident than the way anybody else seems to. And they teach you that. They teach you how to think like, well, you could do, $1 million in sales, but like, why not 100 million? Like, there's no reason you can't do 100 million instead. And it's usually true. And so it just teaches you to aim bigger, to think bigger, because I think the stereotypical shoot for the moon and land among the stars, it's usually the case. But that way of thinking has to be taught. It has to be cultivated, and they're pretty good at pushing that into you.
Yeah, and I think if I could add on to that from my experience as well, is that you see all these people that were just in your shoes a few years ago and are now doing these crazy things, and you're like, why can't that be me? Why not? When you see people that have graduated from McGill and doing all these things that reaching that 100 million in sales, it becomes a lot more accessible, and you think that you can actually do it. So. Olivier, what about you? What was the most kind of valuable thing that you gained from the program in Next Founders?
I think so. Two things come to mind. I think one, when you're an entrepreneur, you're like every day working and thinking about your business, and there's like all these problems that come up. But what's cool is to take a step back and like sit with other people like that have similar problems in like completely different industry, that they don't work with electric vehicles, they work with plants or something, and it's really cool to like not feel alone, like, because sometimes it can be like lonely when you're working on your business. So I think that's one thing that was really, really interesting in the Next Founders program, and meeting all these other founders that are in all different kind of like times in their company. So that's really, really interesting. And then the other thing, I think, where else, the way I saw kind of the Next Founders program was like a compressed MBA, like an MBA, like really quickly. And where else can you get a free MBA? Like that's insane with top level. I mean, you saw the roster there that Justin presented. Where do you get that opportunity? I mean, that's ridiculous. So I think that's really, really amazing in the program.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Certainly saved us a few dollars from having to actually go down and get those MBAs. You mentioned something interesting too that I'd like to pick up on about the community, the network of the other people that you're going through the program with. I'd be curious, Eve, you just finished the program. What was your experience like with your cohort, the 35 to 36 other people? Like how did you guys how did you bond virtually, and what was that experience like?
We definitely bonded virtually in the ways that we could. Many happy hours and all that good stuff. And actually, it was really nice because we've actually been connecting afterwards too. So we did like a Niagara weekend and we did all sorts of things. There's a big Toronto community. Actually, some people even moved to Toronto to be in, despite, you know, not being in the grad house, we are still in the same area. And so I think it's just really easy off the bat to connect with the other cohort members because of that like shared interest, the shared experience, the shared passion. And so despite it being virtual, of course, we were worried about the network. It's such a huge part of the next experience. But the reality is like it took a little bit more work to reach out and to set up a coffee chat or whatever it was. But the network is still very much there. And we've been able to actually even connect, you know, to advisors and mentors elsewhere in Canada, which is really big. And so something, maybe I'll just make a little note on the actual curriculum. What was different this year, because it was virtual, we were able to have guest speakers calling in from all different places as opposed to just coming into class at the U of T lecture halls.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's usually the experience as well. Like you form that that connection with all of them, and now you have these 35 or 36 other people that you can rely on for, you know, questions, support, emotional support when you're going through tough times if you need it, or to celebrate wins together. 2 years later, we still have a pretty active WhatsApp group where we're always asking for help from one another. Kashif, was it you just went through Next AI this year, correct? Was it the same experience virtually? I just want to get your take on what that was like.
Yeah, I'd say very similar. We did our best to connect virtually. Same thing, lots of happy hours. We had events every week. When things cleared up a little bit, we went to the park and had some social distancing picnics. But then after that, it was pretty tough to kind of get together later in the summer. But it was nice because, especially within the program, like we all were connected in one aspect, and that's the AI aspect. So consulting with other teams on their methods that they used, what's their database, you know, and just learning about what everyone was doing and how they're applying AI differently was really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could ask one more question to the group, is if what's one piece of advice you would give to those interested in entering one of the programs? So that'd be Next 36, Next AI, Next Founders. You know, what would you say to someone considering the program, and if they are considering it, what advice would you have for getting into the program? It's kind of a two-parted question there. Jacob, you want to start us off? Oh, Olivier, go ahead.
Well, I
don't know if
I think you mentioned it, Justin. Like the investment to apply is like nothing, you know. I mean, so if you're even considering it, just apply. I mean, like put in a good application there. But so I would say that's my first instinct is just do it, you know. And you can think about it later. Also, I think for some of the newer grads, I think maybe Jacob, your story is really, really cool. Like, I think at that point when you graduate, you have the choice of, I think the three choices Jacob said before are really good, right? Everyone has those choices. You keep studying, you go work, or you start your own thing. And I think generally at that point in time, there's like no risk in trying to start something, right? Like you have no one has a house, generally speaking. You don't have a house, you don't have like all these things that are risky. So just do it, try something. I think that's my suggestion. If you have that kind of scratch, you know, that inkling, just try it. There's no risk for you.
So to bandwagon onto that one, actually, I've spoken to a boatload of people. I did a lot of math and science tutoring in university. I still do, and I spoke to a lot of people who are like, I went into this university program, I regret it, wasted 2 years, need to switch. I've still yet to find a single Next alumni that's like, nah, I should have done something else with my time.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. What advice would you have to someone that's trying to get into the program, Jacob?
My advice is usually recognize that what they're looking for is not business acumen or, you know, XYZ fantastic learning experience or job experience in the past. What they want is people who are uniquely exceptional at whatever it is they're interested in doing. And so we had a lot of people in my cohort who were, you know, an arts major who had volunteered at a bunch of nonprofits, built up this little like community in their backyard, nothing that screams, you know, I'm going to be the next Jeff Bezos. But during the interviews, they showed like, look, when I want to do something, I do it, and I do it amazingly well, and I give it 110% each time. That is what they're looking for more than anything else. And so don't think that your background should be a limiting factor.
Absolutely. And for Eve and Kashif, is there, you know, you've recently gone through that application process. Is there any advice you would have for people that are considering it among these 3 different options, and how, you know, would you position yourself if you're trying to get into the program?
Sure, I can start. So I would say we've talked about, like, you know, it could be a little overwhelming even to start the application. You know, if you have an idea like, what does this mean? I don't have a product yet, or something like that. I would say just start with a simple pitch deck. You know, like, you don't have to write a full application, but, you know, have a few background slides, talk about the problem you're addressing, talk about the idea that you have in 1 or 2 slides, and then expand from there. You know, I think just taking that first step into building that pitch deck will go a long way, and will help ease some of the stress or the anxiety that might come with starting a company.
And so my advice would be twofold, since Justin, you asked a twofold question. Firstly, it's similar to what Jacob said about, you know, knowing how to express your value, knowing how to express your skill set, but also your weakness, like being confident about your weaknesses and being very self-aware. That's really important, and they recognize that. So knowing your value and knowing how to express it, but at the same time, being ready to dissolve your ego. And that'll be something that you should definitely do, like, always, but in a program will happen regardless. So you're going to be subject to lots of critique, and you need to learn to take it and to drop your ego, drop what you know, and take every advice, of course, like all advice with a grain of salt, but take it and acknowledge it, and then agree or disagree with it. So that would be my advice.
Thanks, Eve. So for the audience members, if anyone has questions for us about the next kind of programs, about our experience, or about entrepreneurship in general, feel free to post them in the chat. I will accept questions. I don't know if we have any yet. If not, so another kind of fun question that I had is, who's your favorite lecturer or guest speaker that came and participated or joined the program when you were doing it? I feel like there's going to be a lot of repeats here, but I think we'll start with Olivier.
For me, I think, well, my favorite was Professor Agarwal. I had this day where I took the train to Toronto in the morning, pitched to Professor Agarwal, got grilled, got like a ton of feedback, and took the train back to Montreal in a single day. And that was like the best day almost of my summer, just like having some time with him personally and engaging and having a discussion was really, really fruitful. So so that's my story.
I'm going to bandwagon on that one and say, if you guys haven't heard, go on YouTube and search up, I believe, Ajay Agrawal Time, I think, is the talk that he gave. And it's like a 10-minute lecture. And I've never met anybody who can deliver a speech with that level of insight density. Like the amount of, oh my God, I can't believe it per unit time is insane. He's just a wonder to listen to. So, yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Eve? Who is the highlight for you?
I, of course, echo like Professor Agarwal, really incredible professor, and Reza Sachu too, so the two co-founders of Next right now, so Reza Sachu and Professor Agarwal. I like the complementary learning style they have, because Reza really encourages you, you know, to be critical of founders, also of yourself as a founder, and then express that. Whereas Professor Agarwal, at least this year, it was more so being critical about tech, critical about disruption and investors, and formulating strategic questions. And so that was a really nice compliment. But so two of those, but then also I'd say Professor Letterman, Mara Letterman from the University of Toronto, she taught 4 classes on data-driven decision-making. And I felt that there were a lot of tangible lessons that I took away there in terms of how to run a pilot, how to design a pilot, how to validate your concept. So a lot more that spoke to the early stages, but she was really, really effective in her teaching. Lots of great props.
And Kashif, for yourself?
For myself, it was definitely Professor Corey Phelps. He really helped us navigate to different case studies of successful companies that integrated AI in their business. And it was just like going through the nitty gritty and understanding where a company went from zero, from ideation to perhaps some form of product, and then how they then applied the AI to their company and scaled from there. And so we did that quite a few different times. And so I felt like I really understood the different strategies I could, the different paths I could take with Plaque, and I felt like that was the most helpful for my company.
Awesome. So we have a few audience questions here, and actually you can take this one, Kashif, as well. So someone was asking if it's possible to do entrepreneurship or start a business at the same time as in grad school. And do you suggest doing one at a time, or is it humanly possible to do both?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely was something I struggled with when I was applying. I was, I think, lucky to be at the end of my PhD at the time and just writing. So I got permission from my supervisors, and I was able to commit to the program full time, and I didn't have to really go do any more experiments or whatever people do with their other graduate research. I would recommend you clarify that for sure before starting the program, because it is a full-time program. It's a lot of work, and it's also for your business, right? It's your passion project. You want to commit to that full time.
Yeah, I think that's some good advice to make sure everyone's okay, and that you're not pissing anyone off by doing the program at the same time as you're supposed to be doing your research. So this one I think would be good for you to tackle, Eve. So someone was asking, does this program support more alternative ideas like holistic health, coaching, or energy healing? So anything related to wellness?
Well, I am in the wellness space, so I would say yes. Definitely, there's an openness to all sorts of ideas. I think for sure they're looking for ideas with big markets, with big opportunity to create change. And I know actually the complementary and alternative medicine sector is huge and growing. So I would say definitely bring that forth, and also be sure to display really explicitly how big the opportunity is. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of all sorts of, yeah.
Sorry, I'll bandwagon on this one. We're a neurotech company that's using music to essentially manipulate the way your brain focuses, and so that definitely fits in alternative and holistic health in some capacity. My advice would be keep in mind that you're going to have an uphill battle in terms of convincing the world, more largely than just Next, that your technology is legitimate and works and provides benefit. And so just keep that in mind when you're applying. Know the science and the justification for it, rather than approaching it by just saying the consumer traction is enough.
A good point, Jacob.
Yeah, and I was gonna say kind of more, more globally, not just related to the health and wellness, but we've seen all sorts of businesses go through Next, not just tech related. There's been a lot of retail type companies, people using scraps of clothing to create sustainable clothing lines. There's been a company using insects to make dog food. It's a Montreal-based company, so it's really all sorts. It's not just your typical tech and software type companies. Someone else was asking, could you expand a little more on what the level of implication is during the summer? So for people already starting the business, would it be possible to continue doing so while participating in the program? Does anyone want to take that one specifically?
I can probably give just my 2 cents. I don't know if I'm directly answering the question, but what I'm reading behind the question is a worry about committing to the program and being able to have time to do this and or something else. And so I may be wrong in my interpretation, but as somebody who's had to convince half a dozen people to join Next, apply as if you're going to commit to it. Because if you say that you're not going to, they'll absolutely bias towards not letting you in the program. They want people who are willing to, you know, dive in the deep end and learn how to swim. And so apply as if you're going to commit to it. It will be full-time in the summer, and it will be full-time for the rest of your life if you'd like it to. And then if you get in, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you don't plan anything else for the entirety of the program length. Because as somebody who's built their entire company on the premise of focus being useful, you need to be able to focus on the things that matter to you while you're doing them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. So this person was asking if it's possible to do the business while they're doing the kind of accelerator program. So maybe there is, I didn't explain that too well, in the sense that that is the point of the program. Why it's so busy is because you're so focused on growing the business within the program based on the advice and resources you're getting from Next. So definitely possible, and that's what you're encouraged to do. But what Jacob was saying was that he wouldn't recommend doing anything else outside of your own business and the Next program. In terms of commitment, Eve, like you're the one who did it most recently for Next 36. For in terms of like hours per week, maybe it would be helpful. Like from what I remember, it was not more than like 10 hours of classes, but then there's some deliverables outside of that. I don't know if it's changed in the past couple of years.
Yeah, so the
Summer.
schedule does vary. I found at the beginning it was more intense in May, and then, towards midsummer, we had more time to work on our ventures. It's really a fine balance, and you'll have 2 core classes, one with Professor Agrawal, one with Raise a Statue, each week, and then there is some preparation involved, and then you'll have guest lectures, you'll have professors from all sorts of places. It was everything from maybe like 6 hours of class up to, I know there was the record, I counted, it was like 13 days nonstop. So, like it was even like a 20-hour week once, but that's not normal. That being said, like the point is it's really a hybrid, like Justin's mentioned, they want you to work on your venture, and they also want you to take away these key learnings. And so it's up to you to, of course, come up with some reflection time to create those synergies, but it's absolutely, you're very streamlined and working for the success of your business.
Cool. The next question, we only have a few minutes, like 5 minutes left here, so we'll try to get through a couple more. What type of team did each of you have or need to complete the program? Were you alone? Did you have co-founders? Were they in the program, or did you find them outside of the program? Does anyone want, I think for this is probably more of a Next 36-ish type question, because most people Next founders will have or Next AI will have an established team in business. So again, Eve or Jacob, if you want to respond to this.
Yeah, I can go. I joined the program alone, just applying for myself, and then convinced a co-founder who was just a friend in university that I worked really well with to join, and he then came into the program as well. And then we hired a third co-founder that we didn't previously know to join our team, who left 6 or so months later. And so we ended up being 3 during the program.
And then on my end, I've been working with a good friend of mine on the venture now. Her name's Liv. And so I applied to Next 36, and then she remained an external co-founder. So she didn't attend the kind of core classes, but she attended the optional ones, and of course benefited from the network as well. So we were kind of on that journey together. But it's been, Liv and I were both non-technical, but we've been really fortunate to work with some really great tech talent from McGill, Waterloo, and Queens.
Yeah, and from like a more administrative answer, so you don't actually need to have a co-founder that's within the program. You can either partner up with someone in it, you can have an external person, or you can have an external person that then you help bring into the program potentially later if they meet some of the qualifications. But it's an easier application process if you're trying to like pull someone in and you think that they're a great fit and you want to work with them. So there's kind of any one of those 3 options you're allowed to go through. If you already have a partner with your current startup, do you need to submit 2 applications if you both want to be in the next program? I can just answer that. The answer is yes. So you're admitted on the basis of you as an individual, not on your company. So of course, whatever you've done with your current venture helps in your application, but they'll really be looking at you. So definitely each submit an application. There are no, someone asked about the fees. So no, there's no fees. So Next does take a percentage of the companies that are started within the program, and all that info, the exact numbers for this current year is on the website. But other than that, there are no fees to participate in the program. Another question here is, can you describe the workload before and after May? And maybe if someone from each program could answer this, like the workload kind of earlier on in the program and then later in the summertime, how much time that took up?
I can go. So, yeah, so I had a similar experience to Eve actually, where early on in the program, so from March maybe to May, it was basically almost full time with a lot of lectures. But I will say that a lot of emphasis on the lectures was how to apply the content to your own company and to your own learning, which I thought was very helpful. After that, it was nice to have like a little bit of a break between some days and times, but still that time was supposed to be meant to be spent towards the business. So I think I would say less lectures in the first half, but in more time to do what you need to do to get your business going.
Maybe Olivier, do you want to go on the workload within the Next Founders program and how much time commitment that is?
Next Founders is a little different in that like everything's optional. So the workload is really like what you decide to put into it. So you could pick what lectures you go into, and then, but if you do, you have to commit to the work for those lectures. So so it could be anything you want, but I think this is interesting and very true. What they tell you at the beginning is you'll get out what you put in. So the more you put in, the more you get out. I think that's the point. You have to balance it with running your business. So I had employees and a staff and all that stuff. So you have to balance that out. But definitely, the more you put into it, the more you reap out, in my opinion.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I agree with Olivier, and I would say so. The Next curriculum, the Next 36 curriculum is the same as the Next Founders curriculum, except for Next 36, it's all mandatory, while it's optional for founders. So definitely a bigger workload for Next 36. But what's really nice is you're not marked on any assignments. You're not marked on, your participation. It's something that you really want to attend just because the sheer value that you're getting out of what seems like, like kind of a crash course MBA. I heard it said earlier, and I definitely mention that sometimes as well. That being said, there's a few assignments throughout the summer, but really not many, and they're all applicable to your business. And again, they're not marked. So again, it's what you put in is what you get out.
Yeah, and could you, so the question was about the difference in workload between kind of January to April and then May to August. So Eve, do you just want to add on to that what the difference was in the wintertime?
Yeah, for sure. So basically after National Selection Weekend, you kind of treat your business, whatever you're working on, and it's subject to pivot in that time. You're also maybe creating a team at that time. Treat it as an extracurricular. Like many of you will probably be still involved in school. I know some people who took a reduced course load. I didn't. I was fully committed to my semester, and I was still able to work decently at what I was pursuing. That being said, at around April, like April time, that's when the lectures started rolling in. You'll have maybe a few guest lectures and then March showcase, of course. So you have to prepare about a 3-minute pitch for that. But otherwise, it's quite reasonable up until May, and you kind of treat it as a new semester. I hope that answers.
Yeah.
2 cents on top of that. I don't remember the program because it was like 4 years ago, but I remember my perception of the coursework. And my perception was in the first 4 months, the January through May, I think it is, they don't ask you to do anything. Like there's zero effort you need to do just to appease the program. And then during the summer, you spend a weird amount of time working on your business instead of working in your business. It's an analogy I heard one of my VCs use. And that's basically like, you're not gonna be writing code, you're gonna think about your strategy. It's like planning the future of the business. So it never felt like homework. We never had any assignments where I was like, let's get this done so I can go back to working on my company. It was, should I be working on my company or working in my company? It's just up to balancing that time.
Absolutely, and to add on to that from my experience as well, I was taking a full course load in my final semester of engineering school, and I had I was lucky enough to have a day off in the week, and I just dedicated that entire day to any next related activities in my last semester. That's pretty much it. There's someone that just quickly asked if they don't have any kind of awards or have done competitions or conferences with the next application. Is that an issue? No, I mean, these are all just extra things that if you have done them, it's kind of like extra check boxes just to get an idea of you know, who you are and what you've done in the past. So no, it's not a firm requirement to have any of those kind of awards or anything like that. And there are no exams at the end of the program. Is another question that was asked. No real homework. And I didn't get a certificate.
You didn't get a certificate?
That's
so disappointing if they discontinued that. It's on my wall.
And last thing I'll just say, it doesn't feel like school. It really doesn't feel like school.
Yeah.
You really want to be learning, and it's all so applicable to your venture. So hopefully it doesn't come off as school.
Yeah, definitely not. It's more like you're building the business alongside these amazing professors and advisors and stuff. So on that note, we'll close up the event. I'll let Antonio come back on and say last few words, but thank you to all of our panelists today for taking the time out of your busy schedules to talk about the next programs.
Thank you so much, Justin, for being here with us and moderating tonight's panel, and to all our panelists for sharing your experience with the Next Canada programs, and to our audience for tuning in tonight. So be sure to look out for a follow-up email that will include the PowerPoint with the resources shown tonight. And thank you all again. And please stay safe and have a good evening. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Don't
Bye.
hesitate to reach out. Thank you.